Alright, good morning. I'm going to do another quick video today. Hopefully this one will be quicker than the last one, but I'm going to go over heavy troopers. Go over the different types of heavy troopers that are available to us right now. We got two of them, and then some of the chips and chipsets and how to use the heavy trooper. I get probably the most questions asked to me about this, at least in my alliance, people asking about heavy trooper. So I'm just going to run through and cover it all, and we can make some more in-depth videos later. So going over here to your heavy trooper base, once you build this, you can go and do all your heavy trooper stuff here. You clip on this icon over his head. It's going to show you the heavy troopers you have available. So we have two right now. This one is focused more on defense, the Earth Shaker, and then the Blazing Gale is focused more on attack. Alright, so I'm going to go through these real quick. You'll see up here it has the progress. You'll have a little icon here for each of the pieces that you get for it. You'll see I have my Blazing Gale all the way maxed out, and it says State Ultimate Form. Whereas this one says state available. I'm missing one piece for my Earth Shaker still. Next up, you have this icon here. You can go and look at each one of the heavy trooper skills. I would suggest you do that. I'll cover them quickly, but you can go in there and get a little more in-depth information about each of the skills. You can also, once you've unlocked the first piece, it allows you for the skill, it says common mode. With the skill you can change the type. So once that happens, you can go here and you can change what type of the trooper is, Air Force, Army, or Navy. You can do that once a day. When you do change it, it starts a cooldown timer where you cannot change it again within a certain period. I believe that's 12 hours. I think it tells, no, 24 hours. It'll tell you when you try to switch it. So I have both of mine Air Force right now, but you can switch it. I would highly suggest switching it to whatever your main march is. If you have two marches, two main marches built out pretty well, then maybe you want to do one for one type and one for the other. So I'm going to cover real quick just the basics about the Earth Shaker. Like I said, it is a defense trooper. All of its skills are based around defense. You'll see here it has HP increased by 50%. Force field takes 30% less damage in the first round. Now, round is used interchangeably in this game to either mean one unit attacking or all 9 units attacking. This one is all 9 units attacking. So the first entire round, it will get 30% less damage. We got standstill. Gains 2 stacks of immunity when the HP is below 30%. So this basically makes it completely immune. This is a super useful skill for drawing out attacks from your enemy once it does get down below 30%. If it gets killed straight out, if enough damage is done to it that it goes straight to 0, if it skips the 30% mark, then that will not activate. It happens sometimes, but more often than not that'll activate. It'll go below 30% total HP, and that'll activate and help you out. Force field, the 2 units to the left and right of the Earth Shaker are also affected by the force field skill. So that gives them 30% less damage the first round. So once you have this unlocked, if you're using this trooper, it's really important to put this in the middle column. If you put it to the far left or the far right, it's only going to affect the stack of units next to it on either side rather than both of them. So you want to have it in the middle, either in the front, second, or third row. Wherever you have it in the middle. And then the last skill, standstill. When standstill is triggered, the immunity it gained is increased to 4 stacks. So you'll have 4 units be able to hit you before that immunity goes off. Again, super useful. So that's the heavy trooper, basically. You can upgrade its level. Up here you can click on it and you can upgrade its level. You can go up to the level of your command center. And then once you reach total evolution in the Valhalla tree, you can actually level it up to 81. So if you have reached total evolution, make sure you go back into your troopers and level them up to 81. It does make a difference, quite a big one actually. Then you can also go in here and you can change the chipset. You can change whether it's your favorite one All this does is change which one shows in your base. So nothing really important. We're going to move on to the Blazing Gale. So this is the newer one that we got. This one is based all around attack. This one is really good for PvP. I personally use this one with Air Force. I think this is the better one for Air Force to use, definitely. Maybe we can make another video about different times and places it's better to use one or the other. But as my go-to, this is the one I use. It's all focused around attack. And you can see that here when we go into the skills. We got attacks the same target 3 times in a row. Each hit does 35% damage. So this one's not a big boost. It gets you to, you know, what is that, 106% damage. So an extra 6%, not a big deal. The only time this comes in useful is, you know, if the unit has dodge or something like that. Each one of those hits can trigger the crit damage and dodge, so it can actually be buffed up a little bit more for anyone that's doing the math in their head and thinking, wait, that's terrible. It's not amazing, but it's a little better than you probably think it is. Swift Thrust, Blazing Gale attack speed, attack bonus goes up by 50%. So this is just for the heavy trooper, but it does make a very large difference. This seems to be calculated after the battle starts, so it's 50% of all the attack that you have into it before the battle. So it's a lot more than just 50% attack, it's 50% of the attack extra. Cicada Armor, damage goes up by 10%, but basic HP goes down by 10%. Again, and we'll talk about this later, this is really good for this trooper, the damage going up, because damage is better than attack. We covered that already. And the basic HP goes down by 10%, which is your heavy trooper's base HP. So that also affects the percent HP increase. So it's going to be a little bit more than 10% based on your chipset, but overall, still a good thing. Attack bonus goes up by 80%. This is his attack bonus, not his basic attack. So remember that. When it goes in battle, both its own hit bonus and hit bonus of other types of the same military type go up by 15%. So this is really good. This increases your hit of the same type of units. So I have this one set Air Force. When I put it into attack with Air Force, all of my Air Force's hit goes up by 15%. Speed Blast. After the end of the Blazing Gale's regular attack, there's an 80% chance to give the target a 15% vulnerable effect, which increases the next damage it takes. So again, don't get confused with the invulnerable, which reduces crit. This is vulnerable, which is basically a debuff that the next time it gets hit, it's going to take 15% extra damage on top of whatever it would normally get hit. I don't see this trigger that much, honestly. It says there's an 80% chance. It doesn't feel like an 80% chance. It feels more like 50 to me, but it's still amazing. Perfect Dance. Blazing Gale can't be put into the cannot launch regular attack state. I don't think we really have any heroes that stop them from launching regular attacks in meta right now. So I guess if it were to be hit with, you know, Sam or Lady Zizak or Merida, it could still launch a regular attack, so I guess that's good. I'm not really going to run up against those heroes, but I guess if you did. It also comes in handy for PvE. When it has more than 60% total HP, and its regular attacks do 50% more damage, and that's also when it's above 60% total HP. So usually at least your first hit minimum, if not your first and second, will get that 50% more damage, which is huge. All right, so covered the 2 troopers really quickly. I'm going to go into the chips again. Oh, also remember your troopers level up independently, so you have to make sure both of them are leveled up. And again, make sure you take it up to the 999 million for 81. All right, so I'm going to move into the chips for the troopers. Each trooper can have a different chipset on it. You cannot have the same chipset on both troopers. If you want to use it on one and then the other, you have to come in here and switch the chipset. So changing the chips for the troopers, you click on here, and you got your heavy trooper chips. You can have different sets saved, and you can quick swap between them. So I have a couple different sets saved. You can just quick swap between those. If you do try to quick swap to the one that your other heavy trooper has, so right now my Earthshaker has the Hoplon set equipped, and when I try to equip it, it says some of the chips in this preset are used by another heavy troopers. Do you want to use this? If I say yes, it'll go ahead and pull those off my other trooper and place it on this one. So then my other trooper will have no chip on it. So just be aware of that. So I'm going to go through the chipsets real quick. There's a couple different ways you can do this. Basically, you want to try to make sure all the outside chips match your middle chip so that you get the 6-piece bonus. These are additive. They fix that, so you will get all 3 of these bonuses rather than just the last one like it previously was. So right now, because I have 6 chips, I'm getting 30% attack to my heavy trooper, and then 30% and 100% all unit attack. So that's 130% extra attack for all of my units, which is pretty good. Your random stat that you get up here, don't mind mine. I have an army HP bonus. I did the math and it turns out this 6-piece set was better for me even though it didn't have a good stat here. I do have another chip. You'll see right here I have a chip that has Air Force on it. But just make sure that you do the math or ask somebody to take a look at it. It turns out that 18 and 60, 78%. Versus 130%. This random stat that I get up here did not end up making the cut for the difference between the two, which is why I'm using this one. All right, so the Zeiston set, click on the middle chip to see what it does. When attacking targets with total HP greater than 60%, heavy troopers damage increases by 30%. Now, the way that I feel the heavy trooper is best used, especially the attack one, is making sure that we get attack speed on it, making sure that we go first in any battle, and hopefully you have some heroes that have proc abilities on them. I know for Air Force, the big one is Maximo. You have things like Akatura or Ray, basically anyone that can start out with and have the chance to proc off the first round. This is going to be a really good set for, because you're going to hope that you get that proc of the hero's ability, and then that damage is going to increase by 30%. So it's going to hopefully wipe out a lot of units on the field before the battle even starts and put you in a good place before the regular attacks even start. Can literally change the outcome of the battle just by getting that first hit off, and then this Zeiston doing an extra 30% is just all that much better. It is only when the units you're attacking have HP greater than 60%. Now that's the stack HP. And I'll probably make another video kind of explaining the differences between these types of things, but basically if the stack is above 60%. So if you hit a unit in the stack and that unit has 10% HP left, but there's still 10 out of 10 units in the stack, that's still going to count for the total HP because it's going off of the stack rather than just the one unit in there. So if, for example, you're attacking a stack that has 10 units in it, for example, once that gets down below the 6 unit mark is when that's going to stop taking effect and you're going to stop doing an extra 30%. And again, this is only the heavy troopers damage, so none of your other units are going to get this. It's just the heavy trooper. All right, so the Zeiston effect, that's what it does. Rondel Dagger is the new one we just got. This one, when the heavy trooper attacks an enemy with its regular attack, it has a 40% chance of doing 90% more damage for one time. If the regular attack causes a critical hit, the chance of doing more damage will be 100%. So pretty wordy, but basically it's got a chance of doing 90% more damage for the first time, which is a lot more than 30% from the Zeiston, but it is a percent chance that it does that. So this one's a little more RNG, but again, it's also not based on HP. I need to do a little more testing with this one. It does say for its first time, for one time. Kind of sounds to me like it's only going to happen once during the battle. I do need to check if that's true, but if that's true, Zeiston's probably still a slightly better option, but this is a comparable one if you don't have a good Zeiston set and you end up getting a good Rondel set. Shazmir, this is primarily a PvE type one at the beginning of each round of the battle. This is a full round, by the way. So every time all 9 of your units attack, 1 round goes by. Heavy Trooper damage increases by 8% up to 6 times. So for a total of 48% after 6 rounds. Against world bosses, droids, sand table, things like that, this is a really good set because it does increase your damage of the Heavy Trooper 48% after those first 6 rounds. And if you have extra rounds or you're going the minimum of 35, then that will be a damage gain for you over time. But since it is primarily a PvE set, I wouldn't suggest putting a lot of effort into this unless you've already gotten your good PvP set going. But it is really good for PvE, especially if you can do better than me and get better than a blue center chip. Have not had luck with the Shazmir set. But this is a good one for PvE. I wouldn't suggest using it in PvP. Most of your fights are not going to go above 6 rounds, with the exception of, possibly when we get into a big event like, say, Eternal Lands or Terra Aurora, and you're fighting battles through stations or buildings, and you're going 20, 30 rounds. This might make a comeback then. Something to keep in mind. We'll have to test to make sure that works the way it should, but it should work that way, and then this would be a better set for you than either of the other two in those scenarios. And finally, we have the Hoplon set. The Hoplon set is primarily focused, actually all focused on HP. It increases the basic HP of your trooper by 15%. So this is its base HP. The amount of HP that all other HP increases is calculated off of. So this is actually quite a bit more than 15% after you get through leveling up your set. Going to be really good for you if you're trying to increase the HP. Also, if it's placed in the front row, the base HP will increase by an extra 10%. So especially good if you're going to place it in the middle of the front row, because remember, we talked about how it affects the on either side of them. I would use this one only on your defense mech, really. It's really good if you are Navy or Army and you want to put that up in the middle, especially if you're not facing a hero that can hit your back rows first. If you're facing another Army or another Navy that don't have a lot of heroes that hit your back row, this is exceptionally good, especially on that first Heavy Trooper. So for me, I don't use this set, but if you are Army or Navy and you have that kind of setup, this could be really good for you. You can also still place it in the middle of your back row or your middle row if those are the heroes and units that you want to protect, but you will lose that extra 10%. But even then, the 15% is still really good. Highly suggest this. This is probably the best chipset for the Earthshaker 100, the original heavy mech that we had. And you'll also see that we have a bit of a visual glitch. This happens from time to time. It'll show you have whites even if you don't. Like, I think this one is actually a purple and this is a gold, but it'll show you that they're white. Don't freak out. It happens. It's a visual glitch. If you go back out and come back in, it'll fix it. Next up, I'm going to click over here to our chipset editing. And now you can set up different chipsets in here. You can set the chipset up the way you want it to. You can hit up here and change the name of it, and then hit this save button, and that'll save that chipset and that name of that chipset for you. So that's how you set up your different chipsets like I have here. Make sure that when you're editing your chipsets, or you get a better one or you replace one, you come in here and edit it, because anything that's saved into any one of these chipsets will not be available to you to use as fodder for upgrades. So it will also protect you from deleting ones on accident that you didn't mean to. I still go ahead and lock each of mine. You can click on it and lock it or unlock it. If it's locked, you can't accidentally use it as fodder for another one. So this is just like double safety, having it locked and having it saved in a chipset. I will cover one more kind of chip for those of you that are super free to play or have really horrible luck like I did in the beginning. I have this mix set. So because I only have the 2 Zeistons in this set, I'm only getting the 2-piece bonus from the 2-piece. So I'm mostly focusing on the Zeiston's main skill. So this doesn't care how many pieces you have. This is always going to be an effect. And the random stat is always going to be given to you. Really, you're just missing out on the 4-piece and the 6-piece bonus. So I'm using this one for this set that I played around with. This was my original set because I just could not get a 6-piece set that was worth having. But keep that in mind, you can do that, and you can use mixed and match pieces and still get the main attack stat and your random stat, and then however many pieces you manage to put in there. But really, if you don't have a gold chip set and you're working with a purple that has a good random stat in the middle here, this is probably the best way for you to go, is to take that main chip stat and the random stat and just run with it, and then build the chip set based on your best chips. I'm not sure that this isn't even the best option for me right now, if I were to level up all my best chips. So keep that in mind, especially for free-to-play people. If you've been unlucky, this is a really good way to go. You make this mix set. But somewhere down the line, you're going to want to have a 6-piece set and a golden centerpiece, because as you saw, those golden centerpieces have really great stats on them if you can find the right one. All right, going to go into the things that you can get on these and which ones are good. I'm going to go ahead and click on this right here, and you can click on any one of these chips and you can hit this random stat I button. It'll show you every possible stat that you can get on this chip set. Now, the left side and the right side are different. The left side is all for your heavy trooper. Everything that is on these is based on your heavy trooper, buffing that up, and everything on the right side is based on all your other units. So this will buff up all the other units in the group when the heavy trooper is present. Additionally, you have up here, you'll see the base stat for the number 1 slot is heavy trooper attack. Everything that goes into this slot will always have that as a base slot, and as you level it up, it's going to increase your heavy trooper attack. For the 4th slot, the one across right here, this one is always going to be all units attack bonus. And then the other two, the 2nd and 3rd, are both going to have heavy trooper HP every time. And the 5th and 6th on the other side are always going to have all units HP. So if you're looking at your march and you decide you need more HP, you can take your heavy trooper and level these up. Obviously, the higher quality the chip, the more HP you're going to get out of leveling it. You can see here I have a 14 gold, gets 33% all the units HP, and my purple is at 25 and it's also at 33. So the quality of these chips depend a lot on the stats that are in them, which is why it's really important to try to get purples and golds as much as possible. It's going to make your heavy trooper that much stronger, especially as you level these chips up. All right, so that is the main base stats for each of the chips. If you're trying to get more attack bonus for your units, this would be the one you do. I always would recommend leveling up in groups of 5. Every time you level up to the 5th level, you get an extra random stat, and you can level up 1 level at a time, and that'll increase your base stat, but every time you hit the 5th level, you'll get an extra random stat or an increase to one of your current random stats. While we're talking about the random stats, greens can only have 2 or 3, blues can have 3, purples can have 4, and golds can have 4. This works a little bit weird, where you might find, like, say this purple I have right here only has 2 stats on it. Well, when I level it up to level 5, it's going to get another random stat. Now, since it has open slots in here, it might get a new random stat instead of just added on to one of these 2 that are already here. Whereas if you have a chip that starts out with 4 random stats on it, those are locked in. You're never going to get another additional random stat. It's just going to increase one of the 4 that are already there. So keep that in mind. If you have a purple that only has, like this, where'd that one go? I don't know what I did with that one, I was just looking at it. But if you have a purple that only has 2 stats, you could level it up to level 5 and see what it gets for its 3rd. And we'll talk about why that could be useful. Alright, I know this is a ton of information. At least you can stop and pause this and go back. Now we're going to go into the random stats that you can get. You click here, it will show you all the random stats that you can get. For the left side, the most important one is going to be attack speed. Attack speed goes on top of your ROF 10, if you have an RF 10 or whatever your rate of fire level is, goes on top of that. So you can actually go first in a battle. Your heavy trooper can go first no matter where it is in your stack. You could put it in the very back row and it could go first before any of the other units. So that's really important, especially if you have heroes that can proc. You've probably seen somebody do it to you in Warzone where you're wondering how their heavy trooper went before you. That's how. And those attack speeds, so say for example, this one I have right here, it's got 1.49% attack speed. If the enemy trooper has less than that, I go first. If the enemy trooper has no attack speed, then it just goes regularly in order. But you can use that to jump ahead in order. Just like ROF 10 was the most important thing that we could get, attack speed on your mech is the next most important thing that you can get here. Get that mech up in the priority order. You can get attack speed on all three of the left side chips. It's pretty rare. Keep an eye out for it. If you do get one that has attack speed, I would highly suggest holding on to it. I even used white attack speed chips for a while because it's that good. So hold on to those when you get them. That's going to be your most important skill. Everything else that's on here you've probably seen before. Go back into here. These are all heavy trooper, like I said, for the left side, and I'm going to run down in the order real quick of what I think the most important stats are going to be for you on the heavy trooper side, and I'll also post a message underneath this video when I post it with those. So attack speed, most important, and then your damage increase and decrease, those are equally important. Those are going to scale harder, especially as you level up more. Then the next one I would say would be crit rate. Because when you're going first, especially if you're proccing heroes, you want those procs to be crits. So try to get some crit rate, especially for your heavy trooper. Crit rate is amazing. Crit damage, probably the next most important. And then it's going to go attack and defense. Defense in terms of the heavy trooper is just a opposite to attack. Just like crit and invulnerability are opposites of each other, they cancel each other out. Heavy trooper defense cancels out attack. So if somebody's attacking it with 200% attack and you have 10% defense, it's going to be 190% attack as far as I can tell through testing. It just cancels out enemy attack. So attack, defense, HP, especially if you're using the Hoplon set or the Earthshaker, the HP is really good. And then shield. Now shield is going to be important too. These are based off of your HP. So if you have a lot of HP, then shield could even be better on this than HP, but those are both about the same. If you have a 10% shield, that shield's going to be 10% of your max HP. So that scales a little bit harder than the HP, especially if you have the Earthshaker like we were talking about. So those two can be kind of interchangeable in which order they're going to be the most important for you. But shield probably more often than not is going to be more important than HP. And then you have your last ones, which are your invulnerability. So that cancels out crit. Normally we'd say this is terrible on most things, but sometimes you're going to have it and it's not bad. It would be the next rated in order, I would say. Definitely above the next two and the last two, which are elemental enhance and elemental resist. Elemental enhance and elemental resist are going to go based off of your, let's back out of here for a second, your special effect research center. So these are the enhancements, and this is just increasing the percentage of those and the defense against those. Not terrible, not great. I would rate them as the very last. They're kind of everything has to have throwaway stats, and it seems to be those are the stats they gave us for the throwaway on these. Not completely useless, but definitely the least useful of the items that you have. Alright, so that's the left side and what you can get on those chips, and now the right side, the random stats. These are going to be very similar. I'm not going to go through all these one by one, but basically you have a couple less options on this side, and then they're split up into whether it's specific or all units. So you'll have Army attack, Navy attack, Air Force attack, and all units attack, and it's the same for all the stats all the way down this list. Now, if you do get one that's not for a march that you use, then that's kind of a throwaway stat. It's kind of useless for you, but you are going to have some of those, and with luck, you might end up with starting with a chip that has 2% army attack, and you might think I'm Air Force, that's no good. But I have some of those where I leveled them up and I had only one Air Force stat on it, and all of my level ups went into the Air Force and then ended up being a god tier chip for me. So keep that in mind. It's not necessarily trash just because it has a stat that you're not going to use. But if you do level it up to level 5 or 10 and those level ups go into a stat you're not going to use, might be time to chalk it or put it into a different one. Now the rating for these stats is going to be your primary march is going to be the best. So for me, I'm Air Force. Air Force attack is better for me than all units attack. All units attack is good, but the ratios are different. Air Force attack bonus gives you more generally than all units attack. So you might get an Air Force attack of 10%, whereas an equal stat that was all units attack might be 5%. So the specific ones are going to be a little bit better for you generally, especially as they level up. So keep that in mind. All is still good, but your specific is better. And then with that in mind, in order, we have damage increase and decrease in here as possible stats. Those are going to be your top two, followed by attack bonus and HP. Those are going to be your next two. And then defense is going to be your next one. Again, that's just the opposite of attack. It's going to be a little bit of a bonus for you. And then again, we have the same garbage stats over here. We have elemental enhance and elemental resist. And again, these are just two sides of the same coin for the elemental stat, where one of them increases your damage and one of them decreases the damage you take. Except these are, instead of for your heavy trooper, these are for all your other units. All right, I know that was a ton of information. There's a bunch more I could do on the heavy trooper. I'll probably do another video and cover the boxes you can get from the heavy trooper, where to get those, how to get them, and also the heavy trooper simulation, the new one we got. But that'll be enough for today, I think. Hopefully that'll give you an idea of which ones to keep and to save. Although I will just real quickly show you also how to upgrade a chip. So if you go to your set that you're working on, again, a visual glitch, this one's showing up white. I know it's not a white, so don't freak out. Remember what I said, level them up in groups of 5. So I'm going to show you right here. I have a level 19. I'm going to take this to level 20. And as I go through them, I just look at the stats. Generally, I don't keep whites unless they have, see, this one has attack speed. Sometimes I'll hold on to that and see if I have a better quality attack speed for my Hoplon set. But since that is the most important, I'll keep those and double check before I get rid of them. Everything else, another attack speed, 17.717% though. That's too low. I'm not going to keep that. And then these green chips that you get from the heavy trooper simulation, useless for anything other than fodder. Just go ahead and use them for fodder. Just do a quick check. Generally, I get rid of everything up until blues without paying too much attention to them. If I do get a blue, I take a look at it. Sometimes blues are worth using. I see, so this one, crit damage and decreased damage taken. It's all right for a blue. But I do know I have a better one, so I'm going to go ahead and chalk this one. The other thing to look at is this one only has 2 stats, and a blue can have 3. So I could level this up to 5 and see what my third stat is if you want to. And also, since it's one of the first 3 chips, it has a possibility that the third stat would be attack speed. It's up to you whether you want to go through and do that. If you're really desperate for attack speed and you have a good one with 2 on it like this for the blue, you could upgrade that and see if you get attack speed. So I'm going to go ahead and upgrade that. I didn't quite get to level 20. I was hoping I did. If you do get to that next 5 mark, it'll increase one of your stats or add a new one. Since this one already has 4 stats, it won't give me a new one. It'll just give me one of these will randomly get increased, and I'll hope for one of the better 2, which would be the damage increase or decreased damage taken. So that's going to be how to upgrade your chips. Again, like I said, I'd pay a little more attention to your blues on up, especially until you start getting a lot more of these. Purples and golds I would hold on to unless they're just complete trash. or if you have a better one for that position, like say I have this Zeist in third and I have this Zeist in third, you can compare them, and I could say decreased damage taken, elemental resist. Remember, we said this is one of the terrible ones. The only reason I'm keeping this is because I'm actually, since it's a purple and it can have 4 stats, I'm going to actually upgrade this at some point and see if I can't get really lucky on that 3rd stat when I level it up and get attack speed. So that's why I'm saving that one. Hopefully that gave you guys something to think about. Let me know if you have any other questions about the heavy trooper. I'll try to answer them as best I can. There is a possibility that some of the information in this video is wrong. However, I have done a ton of testing on heavy trooper, and I have a pretty good idea about what the stats are and what rate they, what order they should go in terms of rating them and getting rid of them. If you have any comments, let me know. Thanks.